Alright, listen up. If the next 4 years look anything like the past few weeks have, then we are in for a wild ride. And I'd like to present to you a series of absolutely unhinged moments from Trump's incoming cabinet picks just from over the past week. We can look at Kash Patel, his new pick for the director of the FBI, and he looks just as stunned as we do in this picture. We can talk about Tom Homan, Trump's nominee for the border czar, who can't help himself from using just incendiary rhetoric, threatening to lock up, jail Democratic mayors if they refuse to comply with his insane immigration proposals. So, let's jump into some of these wild remarks. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel for some raw political analysis every single day, and I guess we can set the scene by talking more about Kash Patel. In this clip, Tom Nichols goes onto MSNBC and lays out perfectly why Kash Patel is a threat. Just take a look at this quick clip.
It's kind of strange to use this word about Donald Trump, but he's methodically appointing people who will completely destroy any limits on his power. And, you know, this is just putting foxes in charge of the hen house at every possible turn. He would have Kash Patel at the FBI, Pam Bondi at the Justice Department. That means that his opponents get investigated and, you know, his friends, he and his friends do whatever they want. There's a saying attributed long ago to a Latin American dictator: for my enemies, for my friends, everything; for my enemies, the law. And that's what you're seeing here. It's kind of strange.
That is very, very true, and it's an incredibly scary thought. He's methodically appointing people who will completely destroy any limits of power. And I've talked about this on my show before, but it reminds me of that quote from 1984 that says something along the lines of, "The Ministry of Truth was meant to spread lies. The Ministry of Plenty was meant to spread starvation." Essentially, Donald Trump is appointing people to these departments that are the antithesis of what they're supposed to be. Think about RFK Jr. as the head of the HHS when he is an anti-vaxxer. I think Matt Gaetz was the perfect middle finger to the system, but it's not just a middle finger, it's meant to intentionally break the system. Thankfully, Matt Gaetz had to drop out. I'm hoping that the same thing happens to Kash Patel, and the reason I'm hoping that is because Kash Patel has personally expressed plans to come after journalists that he doesn't like. He is for retribution, not justice. Now, read this passage from Greg O'Leary's book, and it shows how Kash Patel wants to target journalists. I mean, the work that I do every day could be on the line. First of all, let's read this. In short, there will be a war on women's health care, contraception, LGBTQ rights, and a lot of the freedoms we take for granted. There will also be state-sanctioned vengeance against anyone who has betrayed dear leader. Kash Patel has said as much in his recent appearance on Steve Bannon's podcast. He said, quote, "We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in the government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators." And he's saying the last part in jest, but not really. And here's the thing. There are countless videos of me out there on the internet at Trump rallies, talking to Trump's biggest supporters, talking to people like Mike Lindell saying, "You're lying about election fraud. You're telling lies about election fraud." So I'm not going to say that I'm self-important and that I would be targeted in any way. No, I'm just saying if the Trump era comes along and I'm raking in millions of views shitting on Trump and saying that election fraud wasn't real and that Trump is lying, there's a very real chance that the MeidasTouch apparatus could be targeted by somebody like Kash Patel. And I'm not trying to fearmonger, I'm just saying I'm really hoping Kash Patel gets denied because there are large, large consequences all across. Look at this dude. He just looks crazy. But let's move on to what Tom Homan said on MSNBC. And first of all, Mehdi Hasan posted this, American Democracy in 2024. And it's an excerpt from the Wall Street Journal explaining how corporate executives are now buying Trump's cryptocurrency in order to curry favor with him. This is basically the definition of an oligarchy. Rich people cozying up to the leaders in an attempt to grab power. It worked for Elon Musk. Why wouldn't it work for these other corporate executives? This reads, to break into the unusual circle of influence that surrounds Trump, chief executives are discussing whether to try to secure an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. They are buying the Trump family's cryptocurrency token and emailing tips about spending cuts to Vivek Ramaswamy. Just listen to this. to break into the unusual circle of influence that surrounds Trump. There's a very strong argument to be made that politicians are oftentimes caught up in their own bubble, and they should expand their circle into people who actually have insights into everyday lives. That's not what's happening here. So most MAGA Republicans will say, oh, Donald Trump is just allowing people who aren't a part of the swamp into his administration. That's not what's happening. When you have corporate executives, chief executives, you have people like Joe Rogan, you have Vivek Ramaswamy, who is an actual billionaire, Elon Musk in Trump's cabinet. That doesn't mean that the common, everyday person is now dictating Trump's policy. That means he has ingrained himself within the swamp even further, and it's now pay to play. His entire administration is pay to play. If you buy enough crypto coin, or if you go on Joe Rogan's show, you might be able to be in his cabinet. But to move on from that, here is a CNN reporter being visibly stunned when Tom Homan threatens to jail Democratic politicians. And here's the thing. Trump's choice for border czar is not just radical. He straight up declared that he's willing to put Denver Mayor Mike Johnson in jail. He straight up said that he would be willing to create a National Guard of a bunch of red states, like a red state National Guard army, to go into blue states, invade them, and deport immigrants, which would cause an actual civil war. So again, it's not just insane, it's authoritarian, it's extreme in a new way. Let's watch this clip.
Are going to send the U.S. Army or the Navy SEALs into Denver to pursue folks to pull them off the job at hotels or restaurants where they're working, or pull kids off the soccer field. I think we will see Denverites and folks around the country who will nonviolently resist that.
Me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing. He's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail.
Jesus.
Oof. Mike Dubke, I mean, look, it's very clear the country is very unhappy with the way immigration has been playing out. They're concerned about the security at the border. Where do you think the Trump administration, and how can they stay with Americans on that without, I mean, some of the measures they're talking about, I mean, that language of like, if you harbor somebody, we will find you, if the Denver mayor wants to go to jail, I mean, that has some significant and more extreme echoes than some of what we heard from the Trump campaign on the trail.
Casey Hunt makes a really good point right there, that he's using even more extreme rhetoric than what they used on the campaign trail. So this isn't some off-the-cuff moment where Tom Homan is accidentally slipping up. It's a part of this broader strategy from Trump and the people around him to slowly normalize this extreme rhetoric in service of this radical immigration policy that they want to impose. I mean, 6 years ago, Trump wasn't saying the poison the blood of our country thing. And then he started saying that, let's say about a year ago, and then he slowly makes sure his rhetoric amps up, gets more and more extreme until Tom Homan is saying this live on air, threatening to jail the Denver mayor. That is actual authoritarianism. And the thing is, most Americans won't even know this happened. Most Americans won't understand why this is bad. And actually, the right-wing spin machine is so effective, most Americans might think this is a good thing if Charlie Kirk is able to control the narrative. That's why it's important that we keep pushing back on everything these crazy people say. But Homan also has this vision for a Republican state National Guard that he's floated multiple times, where you get the National Guards from a bunch of red states to combine and then enter blue states to enforce Trump's apocalyptic immigration policies. And I just want to, from a broad point of view, I want to back up. Democrats actually do want a more secure border. Democrats are the ones that have been fighting to streamline the immigration process at the border so that people wouldn't have to come over here illegally. See, what Tom Homan wants to do is essentially kick everybody out, but then not fix the underlying problem. Either way, the idea that Tom Homan wants to weaponize state-level militias to go into blue states and then eventually arrest the Denver mayor and deport people, it's incredibly scary. It's the kind of thinking that stretches the fabric of this country thin, and I want to end this off with an article that just released this morning. Trump and Republicans in Congress eye an ambitious 100-day plan. It would start off with a tax break for millionaires and almost everyone else, an end to the COVID-19 era government subsidies that some Americans have used to purchase health insurance, limits to food stamps, including for women and children, and other safety net programs, rollbacks to Biden-era green energy programs, mass deportations, and government job cuts to drain the swamp. Was there anything good in there? Tax breaks for millionaires, not good. Limits to food stamps, no. Rollbacks to Biden-era green energy programs, mass deportations. There is nothing in there for the average American, for people like you and I. Having won the elections and sweeping the power, Republicans are planning an ambitious 100-day agenda with President-elect Donald Trump. That's just the first 3 months. That is just the first 3 months. I will leave you guys with that. I'll make another video about this, but drop a like, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.